Welcome, welcome, welcome to Biz Dev Live. I am so excited to bring you the amazing Toni Quest and understanding this piece around mindset, right? The idea that your mindset, what you think, what you believe, how you approach things changes everything in your life. What's the one constant thing in your life? It's you, it's your mindset. So getting that, shaping that, it is crucial for personal success, business success, entrepreneurial success. That's what we're talking about today on Biz Dev Live. Stay with me.
Biz Dev Live, Biz Dev Live. Weekdays at 11 Eastern Time, live. Biz Dev Live, Biz Dev Live. Weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Leadership and motivation, empathy and inspiration, Biz Dev Live, Biz Dev Live. Business development, not even selling it. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T. Biz D with C, brought to you by Cameron T. This is business development, not even selling it. This is business development, not even selling it. Biz Dev Live, Biz Dev Live. This is business development, not even selling it.
So Toni Quest is amazing. Toni Quest is a public speaker, self-taught visual artist. I'm going to throw her on the screen right here. You're going to see some of the art behind her, or all the art behind her is art that she has personally done. Toni Quest is a public speaker, self-taught visual artist, poet, and author. She believes her many endeavors are a demonstration of her inclination to engage in life and create. Toni Quest authored her memoir, Actualized, A Life in Progress. Toni Quest is the host of Energy Stoners Cafe podcast, and you can find her on LinkedIn and connect with her there. Please welcome to the show the amazing
Thank you so much, Cameron. What an introduction. I hope I live up to it. I will live up to it. I appreciate being.
There you go. There's that mindset shift. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So talk to me about how you're currently helping people, and then we'll get into the background story.
Well, currently I'm very much engaged in doing some commission work right now for someone that's trying to, I guess, actualize a dream that incorporates his late father, which is interesting. I'm doing a very large scale piece for his very large scale home. And I'm concentrating on trying to bring the energy that he feels and the love he feels for his father into this piece. He happens to be a musician. His father was a musician. And so the piece that I'm doing, which I'm not at liberty to reveal right now, but I will at some later date in the foreseeable future. And maybe I'll get to share that with you. But right now I'm helping people work with my jewelry. I design specific pieces of jewelry for people based on energy stones. I use energy stones, which are like semi-precious, some people call them, and they exude energy that can be healing and also be inviting. Some people actually believe you can make something happen with a stone. I'm helping people that way. And I also do some public speaking in which I try to inspire. And I don't pigeonhole myself into a particular market, although some people believe I should, and some people think that I should just be myself. So I hope that I'm helping people. I believe I am.
So I know from our conversation, and we talked, I mean, you've led an incredible life. You've done a lot of stuff, and you're an incredible artist. Talk to me a little bit about what little Toni wanted to do, because you've had some life, right? You've had some twists
Yes.
and turns, and so talk to us about what you were sort of excited about when you were a little girl, and what that journey is, kind of what path that journey has taken from your time as a little artist to now a big artist.
Well, I think yes, I guess I'm a big artist. I think I'm a big artisan. I like to think what I've really been doing to live my dream. Because when I was a young girl, I wanted to be, and it was a very young girl, I'd say maybe 10, 11 years old going forward. I wanted to be a talk show host. And I'm actually living that now. And I wanted to be an artist, and I'm actually living that dream now. And I also wanted to be a writer, and I'm actually living that. But when I was growing up, because I think of the era that I grew up in, and also the wonderful family that I had, I was raised by my grandparents because I lost my mother very young after my parents had separated. So my grandparents raised me, and they knew that I had something. There was something about me, but they were trying to protect my future. So they'd always talk about things like the starving artist. Yes, you are a very good writer. Yes, you are very artistic. Yes, you can talk a blue streak, but you have to do something more practical. So I always sort of had that dream, kind of like simmering on the side. I never totally dropped it, and I took a different path you know um so fast forward like decades and
Oh, don't
decades
don't don't don't
later.
don't do that. So talk to me. So you were because I love this piece because I think a lot of us go through this, right? We got this creative side, right? And parents being, who parents are, and this was your grandparents, right? Because you had lost your parents, right?
Mhm.
And they're saying, you know, you got to do something that's actually going to put money on the table because that artist stuff is nice, but I don't see you actually making income from it. So what did that lead you into? So what did that educational journey look like? Career journey look like?
Well, I went to New York Institute of Technology for my undergrad. And even though that doesn't sound like the place for me, but I actually got a Bachelor of Fine Arts at the New York Institute of Technology. I majored in communication arts, which is basically like journalism, media and arts, they call it very much. Um, so these days. And I learned about public relations, I learned about advertising. I didn't do too much hand to canvas thing. I didn't do any of that actually, except I dabbled a little as a hobby. So I got different jobs in the advertising field, and it was very difficult for me as a Black woman. I'll say it was almost the doors were shut before I even walked in them often, but somehow I managed to stay in it with help from some nice people. There's a woman that got me out of media planning, which in advertising agencies back then used to call that the boiler room. And so I had the I guess the gumption to get a job in sales. Media sales changed my income, like tripled it, quadrupled it.
I
And
love that, and,
also,
and I want to just pinpoint that because it's something that we, whether the topic of the day is mentorship or it's just a part of people's stories over
Mhm.
and over again, find that mentorship. And I talk about my dream in life, my pie in the sky kind of dream, because I'm passionate about opportunity and education, but making mentorship more readily available to people as they're on their high school journey, right? And I mean, I love hearing about people's high school stories where they say, they had entrepreneur workshops and internships, at younger ages, because I think that's so incredibly life changing for somebody's trajectory to get that experience earlier on. Listening to Warren Buffett's story of his, massive success, and he talks about, I don't know that I did it better than anyone, but I started earlier than most people did, on this track. And so, being well read, going down that road, getting mentorship, seeking the information and really applying himself, he was able to do something over the long term. And I think those kinds of stories are really incredible. So you got some great mentorship. I know when we spoke, we talked about that, right? The impact of mentorship on your life.
Yes, it means a lot. When I was in high school, there was a professor, we called them teachers, that taught TV technology TV. And he actually got me a scholarship when I was in the 11th grade, the 10th grade, to go to the New School for Social Research. And I actually took a film course. and I was working with graduate students. I was in the same classroom with graduate students at like 14, 15 years old. And Mr. Hanna saw something in me that other people didn't see in me. So I have to give him credit for that. And then I went on to college and I majored in some things, and it was really a to I started working. I had a terrible car accident and I was landed in the hospital. Um, I was disabled from it. It was a concussion, a lot of head trauma. And when I kind of emerged from that, I was drawing. I had a cousin, my cousin Florence. She was my father's first cousin. Said you should paint, you should draw, because that's what she did. And she did that even though she had crippling arthritis in her hands. She painted these beautiful, beautiful landscapes and waterscapes. She used to watch an artist by the name of Bob Ross on TV every single day. And she sort of led me to painting. And the story just goes on,
So, and
Cameron.
talk to us about the mindset shift there, because obviously you'd had that creative streak. This
Yes.
accident happens, right? And so, what was the results of the accident? Where were you after the accident, physically, mentally?
Physically, I was convalescing for a period of time in the hospital, but then at home. Then I started painting after this accident, and I painted this very large. I'm actually looking at the picture, which is funny. I don't really show it too much. I'm looking at it at across the room. It's actually behind another painting, and I'll tell you, it was almost like I was in a trance. I painted this very large. For me, I guess at that time, it was a 24 by 30 in dimension painting of a woman who was just screaming, and I don't know where it came from. It just kind of came out of me, went into through my body and into my hands, and I'm painting. And I look at it, sometimes I examine it and I see a particular kind of detail in there that I actually was executing with color, but the emotion was insane. And I got some press on it because people were amazed. My doctors were amazed. They didn't, they were like, well, just keep painting. They didn't take credit for anything, but it was working for me. And I was able to come out of that trance, of like, where am I? And it just evolved. And I started exhibiting. And I always kept a certain mindset. I think a seed that was planted in me by my mother, by my grandmother, and my grandfather that kept me from that area of that dark area that some people get into of self-pity. And I feel I didn't act too crazy once the concussion wore off. And from there, I've been doing other things, and I've been living the dream I had as a child. I'm an artist, a writer, and a talk show host. It just happened. I don't know if the accident was a catalyst for that, but the mindset had a lot to do with it. And I'll say that about 7 years ago, I was contacted by someone. She was from another country, but she was working in this country, and she was doing a piece, a global piece, contacting what she referred to as creatives. And I was asked to write an article, um, like 400 words, of what it takes to have a winning mindset. And I wrote the article, and it got published everywhere. And I think I was the first one of everyone that she chose. So I got to say, Cameron, I don't know why I sort of find myself in these advantageous positions, and I don't question it too much. And I would say, if I were to give advice, and this is the kind of advice I give to people that I mentor, to friends, is there's a skill to going with the flow and dropping that mindset that most people have, that they have to control every single minute of their lives. Sometimes things are sometimes you're just meant to stumble upon something, and that's what's meant to be. That's what I believe. I won't try to take my beliefs and you know make other people believe them, but that's what I believe, and that's worked for me. And I really don't understand why I can do what I do. I don't understand why I can paint, a 4-foot head of Joan Rivers and, and James Brown. I don't know why I can do that. I don't really understand
Well, I
exactly.
know why you can do it. You practice that. I got a young artist in the house, and he does such great work. And my push on him is to do the work, and you've definitely done the work. We got a great question from Braden Daniels. He says, Toni, how would you describe your artistic style? Seems like it was very therapeutic.
Thank you, Braden, for that question. It continues to be very therapeutic. My style is something I'll tell you honestly, I really believe a lot of it is genetic. My father was an artist. He was a pen and ink artist. He didn't aspire. I don't know what he aspired to, but he never really took it to any particular level, except that when he found out that I had actually fallen into that same fallen on that same path, and this was after my accident, he started suggesting that I paint certain people. And the first person he suggested I paint is Dizzy Gillespie, his favorite artist. But I look at my style, and there is something about it that is purely my style. It's not. I'm self-taught, and I really don't practice. My late husband, who was an artist, he was more of a professionally trained fine artist. He was always very intrigued and frustrated by the fact that I didn't do a series of drawings before I started something. I just took the canvas, looked at the size of the canvas. If the person was alive, I'd look at them maybe once or twice, or I'd look at pictures of someone that was gone, has passed, and I basically put the paintbrush to the canvas. Sometimes I take a pencil and do like a little bit of an outline just to know what size, just to give myself a little guidance. But I don't practice. I do not practice.
So I'm going to say you don't practice art the way I don't practice speaking, but we're going to go through that, right? So I want to also talk about something that you mentioned, because you said, things kind of come to you because you go with the flow. And I think for anybody that, and correct, you feel free to add your insight if you don't think this is it. But I sort of connect that to a lesson that was a big light bulb moment for me from the Go Giver. And the Go Giver has these 5 laws for stratospheric success. And one of the laws, I shared in getting you prepped for today, BizDev Live, when we did our face-to-face, the law of authenticity, which is, you share yourself. It's the greatest gift that you have, that you can share. And you definitely do a great job, I think, of sharing yourself through your artistic style, through your vision, right? And telling your story like you are today. But another one of the laws is being open to receiving. And this was a huge light bulb moment for me, because a lot of books and a lot of different stuff talks about giving. If you're listening to Tony Robbins, you're listening to Oprah, you're reading different things, give, and you will receive. I think truly for the first time ever, when I was reading the Go Giver, this understanding of being open to receiving was a huge light bulb moment for me, because it was saying the way that you're going to receive isn't necessarily the way that you're going to want or direct, right? Or control, the word you were using, right? The way that you're going to receive. Being open to receiving means, maybe somebody's offering you a speaking opportunity. Maybe somebody's offering you a compliment. Are you open to receiving that compliment? If you're not willing to let somebody lift you up, well, are you ever going to be lifted? Right? If somebody, is sitting there validating you, but you're sitting there disvalidating, right? Basically knocking yourself down and not being open to receiving the blessings that are coming to you from every which direction, brings back to mind the story of the guy that, said he kept on asking for God's help. He's sitting on top of the house, the water's coming up. He's sitting on top of the house. He's asking for the Lord to help him. And the boat
Yes.
comes by and says, "Oh, we can, no, I'm out. The Lord is going to help me." And the helicopter comes by, and he's like, "No, the Lord is going to help me." And then he, finally ends up drowning. He dies. He goes to heaven, and he says, "Lord, why didn't you come and help me?" "I did. I sent this guy, and I sent this other one, and I sent this
I
other."
sent a boat. I sent an airplane. Isn't yes. No, I really live by that. And I'll tell you what I really believe, because there was a point in my life, there was a little element of self-deprecation. Someone will say, "Oh, you have such a great flair for art. You're such a great artist." And I would say, "Well, I'm okay. I really am not that good." And then what happens is you actually stall yourself, because you're sending in my opinion, okay, you're sending the signal to the universe that you don't need them. You're sending it, you're a signal, you're sending a message to God that you don't need them. And so then therefore you don't get any further blessings. But when you have an attitude of gratitude for every single thing, I think that gratitude, and even just saying the word thank you, is just such a powerful force. And from what I've seen in my life, is a lot of people don't get it. It took me a while to figure it out. I mean, I had to have a car accident to realize that, yes, I am an artist, so I had to experience that pain to just stop me in my tracks. And there are a lot of things that I always look at my losses and my tragedy. I try to see, like, what am I supposed to learn from this? Because this way, since I'm a woman of faith, I do believe God understands that I appreciate everything. So I say I'm living my dream because I've surrendered to a lot of things, and I do engage in things, but I can't say that I train myself as well as a lot of artists do, or like a singer, for instance, or a musician. They have to practice because there's a certain a different skill set. I guess maybe it would behoove me to start practicing. Maybe I'd get even better, and I wouldn't
You're,
struggle so.
you're killing me. I think, I don't know, for me and audience, you gotta support me here, because Toni's saying she doesn't practice, but I think when you do your thing, right?
Yes.
And maybe you're saying, I don't sketch and I don't draft, 30 different versions before I paint the final painting. But, I do that every day with BizDev Live, because I refuse to do like a pre-production, post-production, editing the video thing. We go live. And so it forces me, I was talking about this the other day, because I enjoy the live, the excitement of doing the live. I had a guest on yesterday, and so we were at the end of it, and she was like, I was nervous about it. I was like, this is the thing. I get nervous about every show and everything that I do, and one of the things that sort of eased that down and made it better is we just go. And so, we were having some technical challenges with sound, and I don't stress about it, right? I try to fix it, try to correct it, try to make sure that we're set up for success. But at the same time, it is what it is. The show's going on, the show's moving forward, the art gets created, it's put out into the world. You love it, you hate it, I don't care. I move on to the next. And I think what you're talking about is doing exactly that, right? You're creating your work and moving on to the next. And that in itself, I believe, that's why I was saying, make it fun. You don't practice art like the way I don't practice speaking, because, you're doing it and you're doing it. And so obviously you're putting out the work. And I talk to people about this inside of their careers, their businesses. If you are wanting to create, produce content, produce work, do jobs, for young people that are just getting started, you want to get into a line of work, you don't have the degrees behind you, you don't have the certifications, go out and do the work. Somebody wants you to do the work, and I guarantee somebody will let you do the work for free. College, you got to pay.
Yes.
Right, to go get an education. You can go do the work and just give the time. You're giving your time for college, education kind of stuff. You can just go do the work and actually get that experience. And I'm not trying to talk anybody off of the ledge of jumping into college. I believe in college education, but I also believe in experience. And so if you can do the best of both worlds, that's awesome. And especially if you're faced in that position where you got to spend a lot of money that you don't know that you have, go do the work for free. People don't care about the education. They care about the experience, and go do that.
Yes,
Right?
I agree with you 100% on that, Cameron. As a lifelong learner, because I'm an educator as well, and so an adult educator, and the value of experience. That's why often some people get like college credit for their life experience. Some people get that. I have to just say one thing. There is one thing I do practice. I do practice public speaking. That's the only thing I practice. And I belong to Toastmasters International. I was president for a minute, you know, literally, it was maybe for like a month. And I said, nah, I want to be a member. I have too much to learn. So I pulled off of that position that they gave me. And I said, no, I don't want to be president. I just want to be a member because there are things I need to learn. And so I do practice. I mean, every 2 weeks they have a meeting and you have the opportunity to do a speech. I'm doing a speech tonight that I have to prepare, and I'm going to practice it so it comes out perfectly, because it helps me in other areas. It helps me with my podcast. I have a lot less vocalized pause. I
Yeah.
present a lot more smoothly because of Toastmasters and practicing, the public speaking. But I can't say I do that with the art, but I do that with public speaking. So I'm just sort of backpedaling a little bit. You're
I
right.
love it.
You're
I love
right,
it.
Cameron. I do.
And listen,
Practice.
I was talking about this yesterday. We were talking with our guest yesterday, Steve Spiro, and I. I'm so bad with my names, like they'll literally go in and out of my head as fast as they're coming in. But yesterday we did storytelling and the art of connection, and we had, if I could remember anything, right, Dave Bricker on the show, and he was incredible. He's an incredible storyteller, and we were talking about. He said at some moment, oh, Cameron, or Steve actually said, oh yeah, Cameron's a natural. And I was like, no, wait. There's nothing natural about it. I mean, not to say that there aren't people that, come into it and enjoy the practice. So I would say, like, with art, right, you have to really kind of enjoy putting art. I enjoy art, but I don't make space for it as much as I would like to. I would love to have a space in my house and time mapped out so that I was putting paint to canvas more often. And I think that's a big deal for anybody that's wanting to be an artist, right? You have to make time for it, right? I think, the interesting thing, and this is a mindset piece too, and hopefully you can chime in here, Toni, with me, but a big mindset shift is not that you don't have time for something, it's that you're not making it a priority. And so we get to tell ourselves what we spend time and what we have time enough for. And so what are you actually prioritizing in your life? And similar to you, when I started doing BizDev Live, I had, before I ever started BizDev Live years ago, been going towards a on-stage speech presentation at a conference. And so I was working on my speech, and I recorded myself, and oh my goodness, as I looked at this recording of myself, the uhs, the filler words, the just illogical phrasing, it was a mess. And so there is when that's when the practice began to work on drafting and eliminating the filler words and understanding that space can live between your words, and that's okay. And it actually makes them more powerful. And so I think, any artist that's experimented with white space gets this concept.
Yes.
The idea that you can say things in a way that they become more powerful, that people pay more attention, and definitely you get to this less is more idea, right?
I like that. Less is more.
Yeah.
I like that. When I was a teacher, when I was teaching art some years ago, I really was impressed. I really impressed upon them the value of less is more. Don't try to put everything in there. Sometimes silence is deafening, it can be, so
Yes.
yeah, I like that. I always embrace that concept of less is more. I think that young children, when they have ideas, they miraculously put them all together, everything on the canvas. And as they develop, because I've never gone to art school, but I have some students that have gone to art school. And as I've developed and I look at their art, it's not nearly as busy. It's not nearly as complex in its execution. The complexity is in the blank space on the canvas.
It's an interesting thing, right? You know,
It is. Yeah.
when you create white space in your life. We were talking about this on the show yesterday. I had, and over the last couple of days, we've had some people that were really on, you know, like the mental wellness thing. So I had Kathy Leckie on yesterday. And then on Tuesday, I had Lisa Charles, both people that talked about breathing. And so just getting into a point in your day, creating that white space, if you will, in terms of giving yourself a place to make the rest of it have meaning, right? Because if I'm leaving white space on the page, it allows me to focus more on what is there versus all the stuff, right? That you could fill the page with. And it's such a big deal. And I think if we take that artist's mindset to the world and we're able to know this is where we want the focus to be, this is where we want people to look, this is what I want people to see, you know, for personal branding, for the work that you do in your life, right? And I do a lot of things, and so I'm constantly, as I get a chance to, sort of say, what do I want people to see? What do I want people to remember about me? And so that white space becomes even more important, right? You know, taking the time to think that through, focus myself, make sure that that messaging is clear. And I love Braden's, Braden is I don't know if you've met Braden, Toni, but Braden Daniels is a magician who
I love magic.
Who is a business leadership speaker. So he holds these couple of hats and combines them and does amazing work guiding and teaching business leaders through magic. And he says magic is fun, but magic is work. And when you think about a magic trick, right, what's going on? You have all these like technical skills that you have to develop, hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of hard work to make a few seconds of absolute astonishing, you know, mindset shifting magic.
Yeah, magic is a very special thing. People that have that skill to do sleight of hands. I have a friend in the neighborhood here. She's also, her name is Margaret Steele. She's also a magician. And I just think I'm fascinated by it. And so much so that I actually had a boyfriend when I was in college. On my birthday, he hired a magician to perform for me privately, you know, and I was just like thrilled. I loved it then. And I had a birthday where my second husband took me to see, I think the guy's name, Steve Cohen, the millionaire magician, at the Waldorf Astoria in a private suite. And he performed for a small group of people. I do love magic, Brandon. I want Brandon to know that I really love what he does. I'd love to see his act. I'd love to see
Braden's gonna he's setting it up. He's sending you a message right now, right, Braden? So talk to me about mindset. Mindset shapes your life, right? So you've been through these moments in your life where you've had to pivot, you've had challenges, the accident, going from, you know, grandparents that were telling you go the practical road, but you're a natural creative. Talk to me about how people can shape their mindset to better their life.
I think everybody's different, we know. I think that if you find value in everybody that you're around, and if you can just find I mean, this is the way my grandparents raised me, because one thing they did say, they did tell me that don't let anybody sell me cheap. They said, my grandfather in particular used to like, how can I say it? You know, he used to emphasize, he used to sit me down and say, you have got brains. Don't let anybody say you're stupid. I had two male first cousins that were in my household. he says, even though everybody's talking about them, the boys, he used to whisper, you're the one, you're the smart one. You're the one with the brains. So do something really good. Don't sell yourself cheap. I think that if you can find the value in what people are doing, if you can look at the world through eyes of wonder. So I think that for me, I'm a senior citizen, and I tend to look at look at the world through my 10-year-old eyes, and I continue to do that. And I find that you can pull yourself back and, not erase everything you've learned, but remember how it felt to be young and discover something new and sort of operate that way. And also I try to carry something in your heart every day. There are times, you hear these horrible stories these days on the news, and a lot of it is like so heartbreaking. And I find that if you can find that seed within yourself, that you can maybe just carry even one person, you know, in your heart, and just sort of carry that person in your heart for the day. Now, it sounds so abstract. It sounds so hocus pocus, but, think of someone that you love, even if it's a pet, and how you feel about that particular individual. If you carry someone in your heart, even if that person doesn't always treat you so well. I have a neighbor that doesn't always treat me well. He just is like a little curmudgeon. But, I don't say I suck it up, but I realize that it's hard to feel that way about someone. So sometimes you carry someone in your heart that's going through something terrible, you know. A lot of people have an easier time doing that with animals, like pets. And, we see these commercials for the ASPCA, and they're just heart wrenching. And so much so that sometimes you turn it off because you can't take it. Like they show you these images because they want you to feel, what that animal or that young child, saved the children. That's even more heart wrenching. Try to carry something in your heart. I find that when I do that, it more often than not will inspire art for me. And it's not a mindset to think on the negative, but I think it's a healthy thing. The other thing I think is really important for people to do, and I'm starting to believe that it might. I don't know for sure, but I'm starting to believe that it's very important for artists or artistic people. Try to get like a daily or a regular dosage of pure nature. Even if you live in the middle of a city, I live in a small city, but like a mile away, I'm not even that far away. They have a beautiful riverfront. And about a half a mile from me, there's a beautiful mountain hiking trail. So I make it a point to get on one of those two trails. Even if and this weekend coming up, I'll be out of town and I'll be probably doing it in some other state. Get on that and take in nature, because I think nature will humble a certain part of you, but at the same time, it enlightens creativity. If you just watching animals, I mean, a lot of people think I'm a weirdo because on one of the trails I walk, there are animals that come out when they hear my voice, wild animals. There's a
All right, so
groundhog.
we just went into a Disney movie. Now you've heard it here. Officially, Toni Quest is a Disney princess, and when she talks, the animals come out of the forest and sing to her. I love that.
Mrs. Doolittle. No, Dr. Doolittle?
Mrs.
Is that his
Dr.
name?
Doolittle. I just wanted to ask this question to the audience because I find this is absolutely true too. And I think it's talked a lot about for folks that are, in this work, but getting in touch with nature, that meditative piece. And there's a lot of different ways to meditate. Braden Daniels talks about when it comes to a career, there are many ways to cut a pie. And I think when it comes to changing your mindset, there's many ways to cut this pie, right? And so nature is one of those great ways to sort of get yourself out of the funk. I know for me, if I'm getting out in the morning, getting my exercise on the bike, going through nature, it changes the way I feel about the day. I immediately feel more, I don't want to say more productive, but I definitely feel that because I've felt productive because I've done something for me in terms of my body, in terms of the exercise component, but certainly the exposure to the sunlight, right? It does things
Yeah.
chemically to our brain. There's a science behind it, right? It wakes us up. It really does light us up. And so if you're trying to get into a more positive mindset, I can't think of a better way if you're not getting exposure to nature, but then going out and getting exposure to nature. And I think one of the things that's been sort of interesting, and I haven't always been great about it, but when it rains, get the rain jacket out and don't make the excuse like go out and do it
Right.
anyways. Like the water's not going to hurt you. Right.
That's true. You're right. You're right. I agree with you, Cameron, in that because a lot of times on the trail, on the trails, you'll go out on a cloudy day, or today it's sort of a very miserable, rainy day. If it wasn't for the occasional lightning strike, I would be out there probably right now under normal circumstances. But a lot of people use that as an excuse. The sun's not out. No, the sun's always out if it's daytime. Even on a cloudy day, the sun's
I
there.
love
Go
that.
get
That's a mic drop moment there, right? The sun is always out.
always
And
out.
right. And it's just the way the sun works, right? It
Mhm.
maintains its position in the universe. And
Yes.
we go around, right? And we don't always see it. There might be a cloud in the way. It might be on the other side of the planet, but the sun is always out.
Always.
So I like that.
Yes. And it's not coming out tomorrow, it's out now. I'm trying to talk about that song. The
Yeah.
sun will come out tomorrow. No, it's true because there as an artist, it's for me actually, if I'm actually painting in my studio, I have a north exposure in my studio, and that's where the sun doesn't shine in the north, but the sun is there, and it's the best perfect diffused light, and it just lifts my heart every single time. You know,
And I love that you point that out. And that's something that I think, we talked about over the last couple of days in BizDev Live, the
Mhm.
little things like breathing, but setting up your office space. I remember reading articles. And so as you're going through and you're trying to shift your mindset in the day, positioning your desk, right? If your desk is looking at like the entrance, I remember reading about, if your desk is in a place where you're seeing people passing by, that's distracting, right? And so the other side of that coin is if you have your desk like shoved into the back of the world and there's literally nothing you can see, it might be great for focusing, but it's going to drain you mentally because you're just going to be completely closed off. I know for me, when I have people in the office and there's people around me, that energizes me, right? It wakes me up, it lights me up, it makes me feel more connected and like there's something going on. And so I feel more motivated. And so those things of like how you set up your office, where's the sunshine coming from? These are basic things, but they affect you on an hourly, day by day
Yeah.
basis that if you spend a little time putting some thought into what your setup looks like. We got so many people working from home, right? What does your setup look like so that you can actually enjoy that experience versus be miserable in that
Right.
experience?
I think that's what the Feng Shui is based on, something like that. I think I'm not an expert on that, but Feng Shui.
Well, feng shui, I think, is like that whole thing, right? And so
Mhm.
somebody will correct us if we're going really off, but it's the way things are set up. Is there your space? And I know I've talked to people that talk about energy flow in the space, but that's exactly what we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
How is the energy coming into your environment, and is it geared up for you to be optimal, right?
Yeah. And how's the energy coming into your heart? You know, I think so often we just overlook the whole heart chakra thing. It took me many years to figure it out, but there's a way to. It's hard to even articulate how to do it. You get an expert on about that, and let me know when you get your expert on the chakras, because I think it's an instinctive thing that one does, and what you're doing cannot be seen, but can be felt by others. I really believe that. And I think that as artists, we know something about it. I can talk about an artist that was in my community that passed away some years ago. His name was Brian Delma Taylor. He was a musical artist, but he was also a visual artist, and not a lot of people knew that. And I remember I was walking to church one Sunday, and I saw him walking sort of in a different direction. And I said, "Hey, how you doing? Where you going?" He goes, "Oh, I'm going to the Salvation Army to play the piano for their service." I'm like, "Really? You play piano too?" He goes, "Yeah." And he said to me, he says, we're artists. And as artists, we're really compelled and really on notice by the universe to give back. So we have to be generous with our spirit as artists, no matter what piece of it we're going to give them. It's just what we should do. And he said should, which usually I don't accept, but I think about him often. I think about a lot of people often, but I think about him often when I'm just trying to figure out, like, why am I having so much trouble with this particular thing, expressing this particular thing. And then it makes me realize my heart's not open, and I open my heart, and it becomes easier.
I love that. And I think that's part of your work you do, obviously creating jewelry, but with Energy Stoners Cafe podcast, right,
Yes.
is working on that. So I'll bring in just an image from the YouTube channel. Folks got to go and check that out. I'll share this here on the screen. See if I can get this going. There we go. That's you in your environment there. We got the energy stones. We got the wine flowing. And so you do a podcast. Talk to us a little bit about Energy Stoners Cafe.
It's really the thing that I love doing the most, I have to say. I say that about everything. I say I love this the most, but I just love it. I'm working with a co-producer, James H. Brooks, who is just like a godsend. And we both love this particular podcast. What I love about it is I get to interview these people, the most interesting people. I always say the most interesting people I can find on the planet. And I like to present them to the planet. I feel that so often people are doing things that are extraordinary and not enough people know about it. So I guess the way I help is that if I find somebody, and I tend to be a little bit of what some people would call a cyber stalker, but not really so much. I'll follow people's careers just to see like what they're doing. And I noticed often they get to a certain point, and then I'll reach out to them and invite them on the show for an interview. But I don't like to let people know I'm actually looking so closely, and I'm not like doing anything like weird. It's kind of like I'm enjoying the things that they're posting. And then I bring them on the show, and I can talk about like Patrick A. Smith, an artist.
We got to work on your communication of how not to be weird. But I love the piece of it, right? I think this is, and it's a passion of mine. I do this other show with Steve Spiro, the Master Connector Show. And so connecting incredible people to other people. I mean, I think that's, if we're doing that on a daily basis. And I love what you said before about keeping somebody in your heart. And I think Glenn Lundy, who's been on the show, he talks about, the morning five. And one of the morning five piece for him is sending a message to somebody that you're thinking about, a positive message. And, we talked about this yesterday on the Master Connector show, but this idea that, it's a real gift when you reach out to tell somebody that they're amazing at something, that they've influenced you or impacted you in a way. It's such an incredible gift, because sometimes we do that and we don't say anything, right? We just, we get the impact, we move on. Sometimes we watch the street show that's happened on the street, the street performers, and sometimes we don't put a tip in the bucket. Doesn't mean, we're horrible people, but, for whatever reason in that moment, we didn't have $1 on us. We didn't, we were on our way. We were in a hurry, whatever. We didn't do it, but it's such a blessing, just the way that you can put $1 in somebody's bucket. You can put an incredible mental mind shift into somebody when you send them a message in the morning to let them know you're amazing.
Yeah.
You've impacted me. You made me feel great. Your art shifted me. Your speaking shifted me. And I'm incredibly grateful whenever I get any kind of message like that. I have a staffing company sending staffing out, and, not every client's going to come back with incredible comments. Sometimes things go well and they're just like, yep, that's what it was supposed to be. But sometimes you get somebody that says, man, this was just amazing. And I'm so appreciative. And that it really does. It lights me up. It lights my day up. And then I get to light somebody else's day up because I get to send those messages on to my staff. And it's such a big deal. And talk about an incredible way to, obviously we're talking about shifting our own mindsets today, but when you are continually shifting other people's mindsets, I think there's an incredible effect upon yourself as you light other people up. It's something that I don't see a negative, right? It's something that's going to build your reputation, build what you're doing, and build the network around you that's going to continue to create those opportunities that just keep flowing in, right?
Flowing. Yeah. I interviewed an interesting author last night on the it was going to be on the Energy Stoners Cafe, but it's going to be on my my YouTube show, my cable show, Talk with TQ. And I think it was the first time I've interviewed somebody that's remotely family. And I think that because, if you're not really talking so much about yourself, but the people that you get to meet, often your family never hears about what you're doing because you're not talking about yourself. But I think that it's really important to give. It comes back to you. The blessings come back in like tenfold when you really open your heart and do something for something and make it tangible. I really think that everybody should do it. But I don't like to use the word should, but I believe that everybody would benefit from doing that. The whole world would, if we just open our hearts,
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great way to kind of end things off. Talk to me about ways people can connect with you, and then leave us with a last bit, and I'll play us off with the BizDev Live thing. This has been amazing, Toni. Thank you so much for being
Thank you
on the show. But tell people how they can get in touch with you. Your LinkedIn is down in the description on all the different channels that we're going live on: LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook. If you're in those platforms, please leave a comment, ask a question. I always love that engagement, always follow up. It's been an absolute pleasure. Toni, talk to us about where people can reach you and leave us a final nugget here before I play us off.
The best way to reach me is via LinkedIn Messenger. LinkedIn Messenger. I am on Facebook, but you'll get me faster on LinkedIn. Or you can email me at toniquesttv@gmail.com. But try me on LinkedIn. I love it when people contact me on LinkedIn. That's my favorite way to be contacted. But anyway you can get me. toniquesttv@gmail.com or my LinkedIn Messenger, Toni Quest. Okay?
Excellent. So people connect with Toni. Have an amazing day. Shift your mindset for the better. Everyone, we'll see you next week.
BizDev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time, live. BizDev Live, weekdays at 11 Eastern Time. Leadership and motivation, empathy and inspiration. BizDev Live, business development, not even selling it. BizD with C, brought to you by Cameron T. BizD with C, brought to you by Cameron T. This is business development, not even selling it. This is business development, not even selling it. BizDev Live. BizDev Live.